Episode 65 with none other than the legend, Coach B, Mike Burgener. I said it would have been better if it was episode 66 since you were on the 1966 national championship team at Notre Dame.
Wow.
You know? So that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's more than cool.
Right.
We could start with that story. Talk about that all day.
I was so excited today because I've been holding in 2 stories that happened this week, one this morning and one earlier this week. But then I heard Coach B was coming on, and now I'm even more excited. I've got so much excitement.
You've been holding stories.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sorry, Coach. I apologize.
No, it's all
I
right.
mean, she's going to explode.
I mean, well, they're super, one of them's not relevant. One's just thought-provoking.
Okay.
I'll start with that one because it was this morning. So do you ever have those moments where
Probably not.
you know that you shouldn't do something, but you just do it anyway because you think, well, maybe it won't end up like that.
You mean like come on this podcast?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yes. Sit down next to Elly.
So this morning,
Probably not since he was a child or any of us were children because usually you don't do that stuff after you decide.
oh no, I think you're all gonna have navigated the situation the same way, and it has to do with the shaker. So I'm into taking these weird mushroom things right now. It's a powder.
Okay, hold on.
It's an adaptogen.
Just
it's
slow
good for
down.
you.
Yeah, but the
Good for your
mushrooms,
health.
like you got to preface, you're taking health mushrooms, not
Yes.
like you're taking shrooms. Like easy there,
Yes.
Really,
So-
that actually came across wrong.
right?
I'm sure you're getting ready to be drug tested immediately.
Yeah, exactly. CrossFit.
Bring it on. I feel fabulous on my powdered
What's the name of the company? You're not sponsored by them.
Four
but
Sigmatic.
Four Sigmatic. It's an actual
anyway.
health
What are they
company.
called? Like Lion's Mane?
Yeah, that's
Maca.
one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so
I take the same thing, by the
Oh,
way.
perfect.
okay,
See, there we go.
we're fine.
So I'm mixing my drink. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I actually do 3 different ones. I have 3 teaspoons of mushroom in here, and I do rehydrate because I have to get rid of the taste because it's not the most fabulous tasting thing. So anyway, I do it, and I usually shake it up gently down the hatch, and I'm on with my day. It's great, you know? So I shake it up, and I use this giant pink straw in my shaker, and I take a sip, and I'm like, ooh, whoa, that's a little too much mushroom, and we're not properly shaken. And I see a giant clump. So I'm not going to bite the straw because then my taste buds are going to go into shock for the rest of the day. It's that, aggressive. So I'm like, maybe if I blow it back down and reshake it, it'll be fine. And then we can move on with the day. So in my head, I'm like, that's really not a great idea. And I was like, it'll be fine. Sure enough, at 6:30 in the morning, I blow the straw as hard as I can.
Why would you do that?
Covered in orange rehydrate and mushrooms because it shoots out of the water bottle. And then I just sat there defeated and angry.
This is like
Bingo.
This is like what one of my. I'm just being honest. 7-year-old
That's what
daughters
Trice would do.
No, but I mean, it's relevant because every now and then it's like, maybe I should balance 8 bags of groceries while trying to do something else, and it goes south.
Why would you not just run some water down the straw?
Because it would have been a personal victory if I had done it. So I was going for it.
Once
Or
again.
pull the straw out of the liquid, and then
Yeah, that's what I would have
That
done. and
actually
run
makes
some.
way more sense.
I'm sorry, Coach.
Anyway.
No, she has to think faster then.
Yeah, it was a good lesson. Anyway, I want to hear the 66 story now.
Oh, back to.
Sorry.
Back to.
I can't
back
do
to
two.
reality.
1966.
Back to reality.
No, I do have another story, but we can't go back to back.
No,
we gotta break it up.
we got to break it up. Yeah, let's hear about a national championship. That'd be better.
Ooh.
Ooh, boy, that was, I don't even know where you want me to start, but I just was lucky enough to be born during that time period, right? So I graduated from high school in 1964 and got an opportunity to play football under Eric Parsegian at Notre Dame.
Awesome.
Wow.
And in that year, that freshman year, we were 9-1, and we played SC at the last game and got beat in the last 20 seconds of the game or 2 minutes of the game, and we lost the national championship then. And then 65 was my sophomore year, and it was an okay year. I think we were 7-3 or whatever. But in 66, I mean, that was, Terry Hanratty came in, who was an All-American quarterback, played for Pittsburgh Steelers, and Jim Seymour came in, played for the Bears, I believe. And I mean, so the baby bombers, as they called them, were now brought into Notre Dame, and the passing attack was established. And a passing attack back then was 12 passes a game. I mean, today it's
right.
Wow.
Yeah,
if you run 12 times,
Right.
it's a whole different thing.
Right.
So I was a defensive back on that team, and so it was just amazing experience to be able to be part of that, and be on campus, and
There's a little controversy though, and we have a Michigan State fan in the room.
Well, there's no controversy.
controversy. No,
There's
I'm
none
just
at
kidding.
all. I mean, I have a national championship ring at home.
Why are you not still wearing it?
Why wouldn't you wear that? I'd wear
I
that
wouldn't take that off ever.
ever.
No.
Yeah, I know. That's my wife says the same thing, but I hate jewelry. It's just one of those things that I have it in my drawer
Yeah.
someplace.
I can't
I don't
even-
even know where it is.
Just carry
I'm
it
the
around in your
same.
pocket.
Anyway, it was a great game, and that 10-10 tie game was
it?
Yeah, Bubba Smith was there. Clint, I forget his last name, Clint Miller, I think it was. But anyway, it was you had more pros
In one
on
game.
those two teams, that played, and it was a fought game. I mean, it was unbelievable. Of course, the next week we beat SC 59-0, I
Right.
believe, and
So-
I think Michigan State went on to the Rose Bowl, but I believe they got beat in the Rose Bowl. But I'm not, and that's why
it
it became,
didn't matter.
it was really big at the time because Parseghian was given a bunch of crap for not going for it.
That's
when,
what it was.
When
Yeah.
you had the ball going against the wind on Michigan State's 40-yard line, we were still 60 yards away, and it's a third down and long. So what are you going to do? You're going to go for it on fourth down? I don't think so.
Not in that time, no,
and you're
that's
not
right.
even. I think it was third down and 7 or something like that, and he ran the ball rather than passing it. You don't want to give that barefoot kicker. I think Cliff Kinney was his name. He was a Hawaiian that cooked barefoot and with the wind.
With the
now,
wind, yeah. Right.
You don't
Wow.
want to give him an opportunity to go ahead. So I thought it was the right move. I've never questioned it.
Right.
No one on the whole Notre Dame team ever questioned it. So,
Wow.
I just wanted to talk about it in front of Braden, basically.
yeah. Well, Braden's wrong. I can't. I thought you'd get smarter than that.
Yeah, he's young. He's impressionable still.
Yeah.
He's
Kid
kid.
15,
Yeah.
Braden, this is.
So, I mean, in retrospect, as an athlete and being around athletes so long, did you feel like there were any resounding differences within that team? Was it a different culture? Was it, what was it you think that made you guys national champions that year?
Well, I think it's like, I wish I had the quote exactly that Parseghian, put out there, but I can remember one time he came into the locker room and he's talking, and this guy commanded so much positive presence. It was just amazing. And we were all scared to death of him. And it wasn't that scaredness of, a physical presence. A John Ray we were scared of, literally, because he was going to kick our ass. But Arrow was one of those guys that he commanded so much respect and presence. And I didn't want to disappoint him. And if I felt like that I disappointed him, then it would really be hard on me. But he came in the locker room one time and he said, "Gentlemen, you see this? This is a fist. And you notice this fist, it's closed and it's tight. That's our football team." But as if you let the little things, those fingers break away, that fist is no longer there. It's strong, but then the fractions. So you stay true to the course. You have your game plan. You have your motivation. You stay with that, but always remember we are a team. And, together
analogy.
everybody accomplishes more. You heard that 1,000 times, but the first time I ever heard that was in the locker room with Eric Parseghian and his staff.
That's cool.
So amazing.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, so reaching people can say that you reached the pinnacle of sports. You won a national championship. People, strive their whole life to do that. But you've had an extensive career after that.
Right.
Would you still say, is that the most defining moment for you as an athlete? Or looking back, was that a cool experience? Where does that rank in, the journey for you?
Well, whenever I talk to my courses, people ask me, "Well, what's your philosophy of coaching?" And I took my philosophy from the likes of Eric Parseghian, Vince Lombardi, and those guys that were the Woody Hayeses, the Bo Schembechers. Those guys are the guys that really worked fundamentals and they really work drills and skills. And if anybody's taken my course, they always know that the junkyard dog, the Burgener warm-up, the skill transfer exercise, 3-position snatches are something that we're going to do every day. Well, to me, I put that in perspective of Parsegian we do calisthenics. That's the first part of the training, to warm up. And then after warm up, we get ourselves together and we work drills and skills, fundamentals for 15 minutes every single day. And then you move on to whatever your game plan is for the next week. But the fundamentals, the training, the skills and drills done every single day for a set period of time is what I believe set Parsegian apart, sets Vince Lombardi apart, the Woody Hayes, the Bo Schembechers, that sets them apart from everybody else. And, it just gave us a game plan to follow. Mm-hmm. And so for me, my way of coaching may be very mundane, but I don't care because I believe in fundamentals and I believe in drills and skills. And I take the little things and break them down into minutia, and we train minutia and then build them back into one, and one good content. So
when you created the Burgener warm-up, did you know it would be iconic and be around forever? Clutch move.
God, you know what? It's really a great story if I'm okay to tell it.
Yeah,
please.
You got it. The hour is yours.
The Burgener warm-up was started in, God almighty, 1965.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was the warm up that I did at Notre Dame. We did the skill transfer exercises kind of evolved with time, but the Burgener warm-up is something that, back then you did the clean and press, the snatch and the clean and jerk. Wow. There were 3 lifts rather than 2. And so, but I did this warm-up and I didn't know what the hell it was. It just, that was one of those things that, got us going. The Junkyard Dog came by me watching old videos of the Polish weightlifting team doing jumps in the forest, basically,
Wow.
And so we did the Junkyard Dog, the Burgener warm-up, and when CrossFit came along, people wanted to know what that warm-up was called. Yeah. And I said, hell, I don't know. I just do the warm-up. And Sage was with me, and she says, Daddy, why don't you call it the Burgener warm-up?
Yeah.
Thank
you, Sage.
Yeah, it was. Sage is the one that really named the Burgener warm-up.
So it's very Sage Burgener warm-up.
Well, she'll say that for sure. Yeah.
It's very sage on Sage's part.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. What is it like having a daughter follow in your footsteps? In that regard, I feel like that's pretty incredible.
Well, I have 4 children, and I have 3 sons, and my 4th son is a girl. I mean, that's the best compliment I can give her, and she truly is what we call a warrior princess, and she. I hope this is okay and you can get it out.
No, but you're good.
She calls herself a badass bitch.
Okay, that's good.
And she's tough. She's a mother of 2, and she's a single mother of 2, and works her tail end off. And I look at her and I think, oh my God, I made that mistake, that mistake,
Yeah.
And so, but she is really probably more like me than any of my sons. My sons are hardcore, and they're all weightlifters and other athletes.
Bo still helps with some of the stuff.
Bo really runs the business now. He's the guy that does it all, and he's written a curriculum for the level 2, which I believe he's coming here. And
nice.
It's a great curriculum, and he's really done a really good job.
Cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, what was your career path from once you graduated from college?
Yeah, I went in the Marine Corps, and first I went to the University of Kentucky as a strength coach with John Ray, and then my military experience is long, and it's kind of an interesting story, but I won't digress with that.
We can talk about it now.
Talk about the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I actually joined the Marine Corps in 1965 when I was at Notre Dame, and there was a program called the PLC program. Of course, I walked over to the dining hall, and right there were these 2 stud Marines that, they had the uniform on, and it was like, whoa, these guys are tough. And I always wanted to be a Marine anyway. As a little boy, you're playing guns and, out in the fields doing stuff. And, there were these 2 Marines, and they talked me into joining the Marine Corps.
Wow.
So I signed the papers right then and there, and I was in what they call the PLC program, and right after the 66 season, the spring of 66 or 67, I blew out my knee, and I was out of the Marine Corps. They gave me an honorable discharge out of the Marine Corps. So, they told me I'd never play football again, but that was before weightlifting was really strong, and I was one of the only guys at Notre Dame that lifted weights. So I came back and passed the physical and started playing again, and
That's awesome.
rejoined the Marine Corps.
Oh,
yeah,
No kidding.
I got in, I passed the physical, and rejoined, signed up again, and I'm in the.
What'd you do to your knee?
It was a crazy injury during spring. It was a rainy day, and we put in longer cleats, and I planted on a cutback, and
Cut it.
the knee twisted, and it blew out the MCL and the ACL and the LDL and the
LCL, yeah.
the whole thing. So, but the thing about it is that you put you in a cast for 8 weeks with a bent knee.
Golly.
But I spent time.
Actually,
After the cast was off, getting it strong again and lifting weights, and I squatted and I got it strong again.
That's awesome.
And then
What'd you do specifically to rehab your knee?
believe it or not, back then there was only leg extensions. After that, if you looked at my quads, and I lifted in a weightlifting contest in a cast. I know. At Notre Dame, we had the Indiana State Championships in that 67 year, and I had a cast on my left leg and my right leg. So I put this leg behind me, and I would basically do a muscle clean and a press.
Oh, my gosh.
And then I did a very
Snatch, a
ugly
split snatch almost?
snatch with a straight straight leg with a cast, and then a muscle clean and a jerk, basically.
crazy.
So how did you get all excited about lifting weights when it wasn't necessarily mandatory, I guess, right?
Well, I went into Notre Dame weighing 165 pounds.
Wow.
So I was very small, but I was very quick. So my 40 time was like 4.45 or something like that.
It's faster than mine.
Yeah. So I was fast, and I could dunk a basketball at 165 pounds. So I was very.
How tall are you?
Back then I was 5'10" and a half. All the crushing that takes place, I'm like 5'9", I hope. I say I'm 5'9", and I'm wondering if I'm now. So it's kind of, my wife says, straighten up. Now I'm 5'9", I'm 5'8". Anyway, so at 165, Parsegian wanted me at 180, 185. So he sent me down to a Catholic priest by the name of Father Lang, who was the only guy, I believe, in the whole Midwest at a major university that had a weight room. And his weight room was self-funded. But Parsegian knew about it, so he took me down there and introduced me to Father Lang. And, that spring, I weighed 182.
Wow.
So there was no weight room at Notre Dame.
There was no supervised weight room at Notre Dame.
Wow. Yeah.
Our weight room was 1,500 square feet, and the squat racks were 2x4s with a V cut out of them.
Jeez.
And the early part of Notre Dame, before there was a lot of barbells and stuff, there were cement cans with bars going across that you would squat with cement cans, or you'd press with cement cans. But Father Lang was, like I said, he was self-funded, and he made all the equipment.
That's incredible.
And, he had barbells. Bob Hoffman, who was the guru, he was like the godfather of weightlifting, back in the day, York Barbell Club.
Okay.
And, that. And he was the only guy that had a market on supplements and, all.
That's crazy.
It was really crazy.
Think about that.
That's amazing.
But in the 60s, like historically, up to that point, how long had weightlifting been around? Like, how much knowledge and background was behind, you walk into this room with what you're describing?
Right.
How long had it been around?
Well, I think weightlifting had been around for a long time.
Years and years.
But I mean,
In the US
Hoffman
back
was
then.
really the only guy that was teaching this stuff back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, right? But it was, the Paul Anderson eras. You come out with Hoffman and all this stuff, and Tommy Konos. These are all the big names, and Norbert Szymanski's are all the big names of weightlifting. And of course, when I got into it, man, I was glued to Strength and Health magazine,
Right.
Yeah.
Muscle and Fitness. We wanted our sculptured bodies, and it's nothing like this guy, but it was like we wanted to be big and strong like those guys. And and so Father Lang was one of those proponents of the Hoffman methods, and knew what the clean and press and the snatch and the clean and jerk was, and he believed heavily in those movement patterns and for athleticism, and that's what we did.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
How did he affect your kind of what you do today?
Oh, he's I mean, but Father Lang was he's the guy that I do everything because of him.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Don't you guys have a group that you meet and still like do like pull-up contests and stuff like that? Right?
We have a group called the Flabbers.
The Flabbers.
The Flabbers, the Father Lang Alumni Board.
That's awesome.
Okay.
And we get together once a year, and we go back to South Bend, usually at a game, and we always go to Father Lang's gravesite.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we drink whiskey and bourbon and scotch and
That's
toast them, and you know, enough just to be halfway civil.
Right.
And it's you know, we get together every year. In fact, one of the kids is down here at Franklin.
Okay.
You know, Kent Durso is a year ahead of me, and that's I'm going to go down and visit him
cool.
when I go back to Tennessee when I move back. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
I was just thinking about the years. So my grandpa graduated from Notre Dame in '63.
Oh,
so it would have
okay.
been right before you. And he was, we were talking football one time. He's like, yeah, we were pretty terrible. The years that he was there,
Coheric was the coach. Yeah. Too bad.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said as soon as he left, everything like got turned around. So
Well, Parsegian was Northwestern, and you know, they were tired of getting beat by this little
By
Armenian
Northwestern,
by Northwestern, so they brought Parsegian over for an interview, and he basically walked out of the interview.
Really?
Yeah, he went back to Northwestern. Well, I can do better than this at Northwestern. And Father Joyce got on the phone when he walked over there, and he said basically that, okay, we'll give you what you want. And
that's awesome.
You know, that was the story.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so you had what do you call those? The Flabbers?
The Flabbers, yeah. There's this group of Notre Dame guys that were when I came into Notre Dame, we started lifting weights, and there was Kent Durso was a year ahead of me, so he's the guy that got everybody together, and we started snatching and clean and jerking, clean and pressing, snatching, clean and jerking, and we would travel all over the Midwest going to weightlifting contests, you know, and we'd go to Monroe, Iowa, we'd go up to, you know, they'd have one up in Detroit, we'd go down to the Cincinnati Open in Cincinnati, and we'd travel together in this old beat-up car because we couldn't have cars on campus, but somebody would loan us a car off campus, and we'd go down and we'd compete. And
That's so awesome.
We, you know, then as each year came in, we'd get 3 or 4 more people, and we'd start recruiting guys that we would see, you know, that had potential to be weightlifters. And we had a team, and we called it the Notre Dame Snatch Club. And we always said there's nothing that feels quite as good as a good snatch. You know? And that was our motto.
That's awesome.
How'd that go over in Notre Dame?
Yeah, right.
Well, everybody, and they questioned
say a
us
couple
like,
Hail Marys there for that? Or what?
No, because the snatch was a lift. We'd have the guy in either a split or a squat snatch.
They couldn't really fight it then.
Yeah.
Notre Dame guys, you know, no girls on campus, so there was
that was before.
That was
really?
before girls, right? You were allowed on campus.
Well, I don't even. What year was that when they started allowing women on campus?
Oh God, I can't even remember. 72, 3, maybe 74.
So what nobody knows is Notre Dame's a small school, honestly. Like, there's 12,000, I think. I was reading an article today, actually, because there was some thing that was going on, but it was like 12,000 or something like that.
Maybe then, but I mean,
I'm saying now.
No, yeah, but back then there was like 7,000, and that included graduate students and law students.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you could not live off campus.
Wow, so you had to be.
And there was a curfew.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. And there were no females when you were there.
No, they were all over at St. Mary's, which was another, you know, it's a Catholic university, but it was the
sister university.
The sister university. And so you can, I mean, we'd go over there and, you know, try to get dates and stuff, but it's like there were some, with all the respect in the world, there were some pretty good beasts in St. at St. Mary's. But I mean, and, you know, there was more Notre Dame men married St. Joe nurses.
Nice.
You know, than St. Mary's girls. I mean, the St. Joe had a nursing school, that's hospital, and you know, and so you'd also go into Chicago on the weekends, and then the good fathers would bring in all these high school girls in the Chicago area and bring them busloads in and have you know, dances and things like that for the guys, you know. And,
Wow.
So at least you would be able to meet some young ladies and stuff like.
What was your undergrad in?
It was in economics. Labor relations. Of course, I wanted it to be in physical education, but they didn't have a PE program. Yeah.
Wow.
How'd you get there, anyways? What's your motivation to go to Notre Dame?
Football. I got a scholarship.
Football.
Yeah. In my town of Marion, Illinois, which is a very small town, there was 2 lawyers that went to Notre Dame. And the way they recruited back then, the alumni typically found, athletes in their community or close to their communities, and would suggest that they
go to Notre Dame.
Well, they would suggest that to the football staff. I mean, I was found out by Era when he was at Northwestern, and then he went over to Notre Dame. They would send out. I mean, they just started doing reels. The old 16 millimeter reel that they'd take game film of you, and they would send that to the school, and then the school would evaluate and whether to offer you a scholarship or not. So, but Era offered me a scholarship at Northwestern, and then went to Notre Dame, and then he offered me a scholarship at Notre Dame.
That's cool. So awesome. I'll never forget when I first moved here. Rich we always weightlifted after we did like our first session, and he was always like, "Oh, we're doing Coach B stuff," and I was like, "Okay, cool." So then I just went home and was a little nerdy and wanted to look up, this Coach B fellow Rich talks about every single day. And I'll never forget, I saw a video that was you talking about the geezers.
Right.
So I call my dad and I'm like, "Dad, you got to do this." He's got this tribe of dudes. They all show up. They all work out together. And I saw that video years ago. I don't know how old it was. It was like you in your garage talking about it. And that's before like the onset of all this like tribe and group community things came together. So, and it sounds like from the Flabbers and being in football and everything like that's something that's always been important to you is a group of people around. How did like the geezers form, and, do you always bring a community with you with all of your endeavors?
Well, I try. I mean, that's the socialization process is, I think as you become older, I think that's very part of aging. You want to bring your buddies around you, and we have a geezer group, and they range from 60 to 83, 84.
Still?
Oh yeah. I mean,
that's awesome.
Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. In fact, I just got a text from them, wanted to know what the hell they were going to do today. And
Rich, this is like your future.
I hope.
I mean, you come over this afternoon while we're working out in the barn. We have they call themselves the 3 o'clock wad doers, and so they're just a group of guys that after work come over and work out, and there's just a talk trash kind of group thread. But most of the time they stand around and do nothing until you're like, "Hey," they're like, "Well, we may do this," and I'm like, "All right, I'll make something up," and then they're like,
It's way better.
Yeah, well, the geezers are interesting because we have the 60. Once you turn 50, you're considered 50 to 59. You're considered a geezer in training.
I can be a geezer.
In training.
Yeah, he's a geezer in training.
Okay.
But 60 to 64, you are a geezer. 65 to 60,
Senior?
65, 69, you're a super geezer. But 70 to 74, which is my age group, you're a stud geezer.
I got something to look forward to.
For that.
So I get to name the group, and so my group is a stud geezer, and then if you're 75 plus, you're a day-to-day geezer.
Oh, yeah.
"That's good."
But we get together, and it is the biggest trash talking. And my wife goes, "Can you guys be nice?" And I'm going, "No, they think there's something wrong." But she runs a group called the Mambas.
The Mambas.
Mothers Against Making Bingo Arms.
Bingo arms.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
And it's
You
like,
need to trademark these things.
okay,
Good
it's
grief.
like, "Rich, you're so awesome," and I'm going, "What?" And she, "Honey, you want to come over? You can." I'm just like, they say shit that's not true, right?
Just lying.
It's just lying, and so do we. But but ours is kind of, and hers is like blowing sunshine up the butts, and you know what?
That's hilarious.
Whatever.
It's called bingo arm.
Bingo arm.
That got me. That was awesome.
Bingo, and then it flabs all over the place.
That's good.
Back and forth.
I'm
That's
full on
incredible.
against bingo.
Geezer in training.
Geezer
I
in
love
training.
It.
I feel good about that.
I love it.
Geezer in
There's a whole
training.
system.
Yeah, but you have to. That's your gym, right?
That's my garage. Yeah.
That's your garage gym.
Yeah.
How many days a week do they come?
Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays,
Wow.
and then so Monday, Wednesday. Wednesday and Friday, all the geezers show up. Wednesday, the geezers show up, and then after the geezers show up, Sage's group comes in, and then that's where we open the gym up for anybody that wants some help with the Olympic lifts. Yeah. They can CrossFit if they want, but no one up there knows anything about CrossFit,
right.
you know. But we have our own, you know, type of CrossFit that we do with the geezers. But anyway, you know, the idea is that you
guys use a wheelbarrow a lot, right?
We have a Burgener barrel. Oh,
okay.
That is really born again hard, I'm telling you. Yeah, we go Burgener barrel up and down the driveway. We'll do a sled up and down the driveway, and my driveway is about 18% incline with, you know, it's about 90 to 100 meters or so, and so it's pretty substantial. Yeah. So we'll do stuff like that. We do a lot of ball slams, things that we can do, but I'll throw a workout on the board, and it might be Cindy-ish, 5, 10, 15, but you get to select what exercises you're going to do. That's because you know, you can scale it, but it's self-scalable. Mm-hmm. So you got some guys that can't put their hands over their head, so they'll do
ring rows or something.
Ring rows, or they'll do push-ups on a 45 or something.
That's
but
cool.
Yeah, you do it. I don't care. You do ring rows, push-ups on a 45, and then grab a post and do squats, and you do that for 20 minutes. I don't care who you are. You're still going to get your ass kicked, you know. So
that's awesome. At least they're doing something. That's great.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
Well, we only touched on your Marine Corps experience, and I want to talk about that a little bit more, because when I watch you coach, there's a lot of Marine that comes out.
Yeah, you know, as we were talking earlier, I believe that, you know, I've always been a motivated type of individual, but I just didn't know how to grab that motivation and put it into some kind of a presence, right? You know, so when I went in the Marine Corps, I was an officer, and it hit me right between the eyes when I went through boot camp at how smart my mom and dad became all of a sudden, right? And, you know, that was an eye-opening experience for me. But, you know, I'll never forget that I was not a public speaker. I was a guy that was, you know, I kept my mouth shut. You know, I was taught that. And I just did the best that I could. But when I went in the Marine Corps and I was in this officer program, I had to present through a speech to another group of peers, a 20-minute foundational speech, basically. And that was to get us ready to get in front of an audience, a platoon, if you will, and be able to talk to that platoon. And my tightness, I was nervous about the whole thing. And my come to Jesus meeting was, my platoon commander came up to me and he said to me, what are you nervous about? I said, I don't know what the hell to talk about. I mean, he says, Coach Burgener, you played football at Notre Dame. And I said, yes, sir, I did. And he said, a platoon, you know what a platoon is? I said, no, sir. I said, a platoon is a football team. They are a group of individuals that you're trying to mold together to accomplish a mission.
Wow.
It hit me right between the eyes. It was like, I mean, I'm getting cold chills thinking about it now. It was an eye-opening experience. And so I went in front of a group of other Marine officers and presented the Notre Dame football program. And I put it in relationship to what it was like to be a platoon commander in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Nice.
And it was a guttural experience. I learned how to project my voice in a very disciplined manner and to command like Parsegian did. And I all went back to Parsegian, to John Ray and to Vince Lombardi, that command presence of being able to get in front of a group and look at every single body in the room and talk to every single body and focus on that individual so that they know that I'm talking to you, you know, and I care about you, and we're going to accomplish this freaking mission together. And if it wasn't for the Marine Corps, I don't think that I would have ever been able to relate to that, connect that with a Parsegian or a Vince Lombardi or a Bo Schembecker and all the guys. Because then after that, I started studying speakers, you know, and how did they project. And so, I mean, this weekend, my class will not call me sir. because sir was my dad. My class will call me Coach. I am Coach B. I don't even know who Mr. Burgener is. Mr. is my dad also, right? You know, so I am Coach B. And so when I ask you a question, you'll respond to me, yes, Coach. Is that clear? That's a question. Yes, Coach. And at the outset, they have a hard time. Is this guy freaking nuts or what? Right? And then all of a sudden, I ask you a question. You are supposed to respond, yes, Coach. Well, that's not nearly loud enough. I want it louder. And so it will be, yes, Coach. And so when I got into my classroom of teaching high school kids, I was a Marine drill instructor, basically. And it was the same thing. I don't even know who Mr. Burgener was. It was always Coach B, Coach Burgener. So I was Coach Burgener, Coach B. And I came out with the magic word of burpees. And burpees, if I say burpees to you, anytime I say the word burpee, you are to respond, yay, burpee. Is that clear? Yes, Coach. I just said burpee, but you did, yay, burpee. So that is, why do I do that? Because I wanted to make sure when
People
I look you in the eye, you're hearing me. If I'm going around and your eyeballs are over here, his eyeballs are thinking about Michigan State, and Rich is thinking, I mean, you're not listening to me, so how am I going to instruct you if you're not listening to me?
Burpee, then
so I hear burpees and you're responding, right? Then I know you're paying attention. But you know what? You didn't respond, but they did. Guess what the motivational consequences are? Everybody. Now you feel really badly that you made him and him and him do these burpees.
We need to hold that with her.
Yeah.
What?
That'd be good.
Hold what?
When you start asking questions.
No.
Yeah.
Ask, well, do what?
Yay, burpees.
Yay, burpees.
Yes, Coach?
No, yay, burpees.
Just burpees. See? She don't pay attention.
But see, here's the interesting thing about it, because if you and I were all in a class together, and I've got that drill going out, right? Yay, burpees. And you said burpees, the class is going to say, yay, burpees. Well, you're going to get motivational consequences because it didn't come out of this mouth. It only comes out of this mouth. And when it comes out of this mouth, burpees, yay, burpees. When burpees come, yay, burpees. Now you know you got them and they're paying attention, and now you can instruct.
Man, I wish I would have had motivational consequences. I would have had that language when I was parenting my children. They're all gone now, but I would have loved to have used. You can use that.
Yeah,
we're good. We're good.
You can look at your son.
My kids don't understand a word I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, there's one reason why.
Yeah.
It's called Mama. She's the yay burpee.
Yeah, that's right.
I say yay burpees when she says burpees.
Yeah, that's right.
But do you attribute that to the level of success you have, that that mindset and way of doing things that way? I mean, is that what you think has propelled you to where you are now?
Thank you for that too, because that really means a lot. But I feel very humbled when people say that about me, because all I'm doing is giving back everything I've ever learned. You know, I mean, I think that's extremely important, that you can pay it forward, basically. And the Marine Corps certainly gave me an opportunity to have a command presence and be able to speak in a tone and to gather the group so that the group's paying attention to what I'm saying. I think that was extremely important. And then, of course, being in that opportunity of that Glassman gave me with, the onset of CrossFit at the very, very beginning is a whole different story. I mean, that was amazing, that the way that took off. And it just, to me, it all came up with the upbringing of being a coal miner's and a farmer's son, and then moving on to being able to be around Notre Dame and Era Parsegian and that climate, and then going on into being a chesty puller Marine type of history guy that commanded presence and togetherness and that kind of thing. It was, I think that's kind of gave me the opportunity to shine my personality, at least, or my coaching philosophy to others.
Wow.
So
is that something you've shared with Sage and the rest of your children? Like, is that something that you've instructed them in how they communicate and interact with others? Or do you think it's a different style based on personality and that one worked for you? Or is that something you also have taught your children?
No, I try to let my kids be them. I don't want them to be me. They can't be me. You cannot take Casey Burgener, who's an officer in the Navy. You can't take him and him be Coach B, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. Now, it can probably work with Sage because she's more like me than anybody else, but she's not going to have that Marine experience. Mm-hmm. All she's got is what she's learned from me, and she projects herself in a very positive, self-disciplined manner. And I've watched her bring down some pretty big boys that needed to be brought down, and so she's, the answer to your question is, I want my family to be them, mm-hmm. and if they can gather the love of passion of weightlifting that I have, then I think they're going to be good for it, so.
Well, and you talk about how, Glassman and starting CrossFit was something big to you in your time with weightlifting. Was that the biggest hinge and surge of newcomers into the sport, or were there other huge pieces to the timeline of how the development of weightlifting happened?
No, that's you hit it right on the head. It's back in the day, when I was really involved in weightlifting before CrossFit, I was on the board of directors for weightlifting, and and I was the head coach for the women's national team and the world team and so on and so forth. And it was like, we might have had 3,000 members in the whole organization, and that included coaches, and so then all of a sudden I can remember Glassman coming in and I was doing USA Weightlifting Level 1 coaching courses, and he called me up and wanted to do a coaching course in San Diego at my high school, because I was doing all these courses, to raise money for my weightlifting team. I do these courses and we do them at my school. So he came in and he told me about CrossFit. And I said, yeah, I know about CrossFit. It's about cross training. He said, no. He started talking to me, well, CrossFit is functional movement pattern, the whole definition. And I'm going, wow. This is different. And it's kind of like, so he brought down Greg Emerson, Annie Sakamoto, Nicole Carroll, all these, Tony, but all these people that was part of his group. And I brought in Josh Everett. Yep. Josh Everett, Stefan Roche. Right? Now they they helped me at my USA weightlifting coaching courses. So, so I thought, well, we're going to put Greg Emerson
against Josh Everett.
Everett. And they did.
Josh Everett was like one of the guys that I watched when I started.
Exactly. Okay. And I think they did Fran.
Did they do Fran? I don't know about that. Is there a video of that one?
I think there is. There might have. I know there was one 2 or 3 weeks later, I believe it was, when they did the first CrossFit certification at Golden, Colorado, which is part of the story.
I remember Everett doing King Kong. That's the one video that I remember him doing.
Well, Josh beat Emerson, and Emerson was like the poster child. And then it became a competition. Greg was pissed. Coach was. It was like, okay, wait a minute, this guy's, and then it went back and forth, and Coach would call me up, and then, I'd call Coach up, and then, that's when I could talk to him. Now you can't talk to him, but it was like doing all this stuff back and forth. And I can remember whatever the workout was, it was like it started out at 21 minutes and something, and Josh was walking around like a big old rooster, all cocky.
It's not good for Josh Everett. Under 5 minutes is good for Josh Everett.
At the very end, the last work that they did, they kept competing right back and forth. I think Roche stopped at 12 minutes. He said, okay, I'm done. I'm not ever doing this again. Josh was walking out of my weight room, throwing up in a trash can, and his workout time, I think, was like 5:55 or something like that. And he says, if he can beat this time, he can have it. I'm not doing this ever again. And I'm going like, that was the start of it.
Wow.
And
That's a cool story.
That's awesome.
And then Josh would go, then after the national championship would be coming up in 10 weeks, and Josh would quit CrossFitting and train for the nationals. Then after the nationals, he'd quit weightlifting and go back to CrossFit. Yeah. And it was like, it just blew up. And it was, I went back and told everybody at USA Weightlifting, you guys God, there's this black box theory, the hopper theory, right? That Glassman's got. And my guys are going, are you freaking crazy?
Yeah, that's
Who's going to do 30 snatches and 30 clean and jerks and this kind of stuff? I said, you're not getting it, guys. This is what's going to happen. My family started lifting weights because I was in the garage in a garage gym, and every one of those kids were national champions because they had a garage gym to train. There's going to be thousands and thousands of CrossFitters, and they're going to have kids, and those kids are going to grow up in a gym, and they're going to want to do the snatch and the clean and jerk. They didn't want any part of it. They thought I was nuts.
Wow.
And
there it is.
Sure enough.
2008, I walked away from the sport because I was crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Phil Andrews came in from USA Weightlifting. Oh my God, look what these guys are doing. They're holding me. We got 35 or 40,000 members in weightlifting now. So you got guys that are, you got young kids that are clean and jerking 440 pounds. Yeah. It's just crazy. Weightlifting has taken off, and it was all because of CrossFit.
Well, that's incredible. But that's only 10 years. How do you think, so you raised your children were weightlifting with you from a very, very young age.
Right.
Will there... is this new onset a case study into how young you can start lifting that heavy, or do you actually just already know the ropes and know how much weight you can apply to a young person for success in the long term?
Well, you're not stupid about it, right? I never let my kids play Little League football or Pop Warner football because I couldn't get the idea of having a heavy helmet on a skinny pencil neck.
Yeah.
I just didn't get that. So for me, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups and climbing ropes and doing that stuff is all part of the functional movement patterns to get an athlete strong for the future. My daughter started lifting weights at 2 years old, and she snatched a PVC pipe. But she would walk out of into the gym after playing with her dog, and she would come in and see all these people, Olympians, training in my garage, doing this stuff, and she would try to do what they did, mimic what they did, and then she'd run out and play with the dog again.
Same thing. Same thing that goes on at my house.
You're the best motivation that they can have, and they don't know any different. And you're not sitting there, okay, now I want you to do 5 sets of 3.
Never once have I done that.
No, and you don't. But that is the leadership by example. That if you want to build a community of togetherness and to great athletes, you just lead by example. That's all, and that's what the Marine Corps taught too, right? You lead by example.
I think one of the coolest things that you do is you open up your garage and let people come lift. Right. And he'll come out there and he's like, hey, Mike's gym's open from this time to this time today, and people come on. Yeah. And that's one of the coolest things. I still haven't never made it over there. I need to make it over there.
You do, yeah.
Well, for the past, year and a half, 2 years, I haven't been doing any Olympic lifting because of my knee. Yeah. And so, the last probably month or two, we've gotten back into actually lifting. So it's been good. I
split snatch, brother.
Yeah. Well, no, I found a doctor here in town that's basically all but cured my meniscus. So it's outstanding. We snatched the other day, and we snatched it this morning. Did some we did Amanda. You remember that workout, Amanda? But we did it with legless rope climbs instead of muscle ups. Right. And that was
that's tough.
It was nasty.
But I think the really amazing thing about that though is you took a year change off
2 years,
really heavy lifting, and you can now get under, it's incredible how quickly.
245 for 3 on a snatch the other day, so it's not going anywhere.
That's
and
great.
Honestly, I haven't, other than the last probably 2 months, have not done any, and I'm still not even doing any strict strength program. I'm just like, all right, let's snatch today. Let's clean and jerk today. Let's work to a heavy single, triple, whatever, double. Yep. And I hit 245 for 3 the other day. So
the snatch and clean and jerk are like riding a bicycle. I swear, for me, if I could physically, I could snatch and clean and jerk just like I did before. It's just the patterns are developed, and you will maintain that pattern. Yep. I can get on a bicycle right now and ride it, right? Snatching and clean and jerking are exactly the same way. I did, not too long ago, I had an opportunity to fire a weapon. I haven't fired a weapon since 1975 when I got out of the Marine Corps. I picked up the weapon, I chambered it around, boom, 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 hit the target 5 times in a row. It's like riding a bike. Yep. Once you have the fundamentals and the skills down, then you've got them.
So as it relates to CrossFit, are you saying if you acquire a baseline strength, you weightlifted a lot for a long time,
yep.
and you have that baseline strength, you could decrease that aspect of your training and just incorporate it sometimes and still achieve that
Well, I think
close to that level.
Well, I think what happens is if Rich came to me today and said, I want to lift into the Olympic Games, and he was now willing to walk away from
20 years old.
Yeah, and he was 20 years old, then you can take that athleticism that he has and mold it into that guy. And the same thing goes if I take a Matt Frazier who started with weightlifting, that athleticism, the power and development, the strength that he got through weightlifting carries over to the athleticism. Does he ever have to snatch 350 or 300 even? I don't think so.
No.
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, and those are things that I had to learn too when I switched over to from the weightlifting community to the CrossFit community, back to the weightlifting community. You're wearing two hats. You've got to realize that, okay, well, look, the dude's not going to move his feet because it's a time component, right? So I got to get over that stuff. The dude's not going to wear weightlifting shoes when he's got to do, but that was a very important part for me because I was a weightlifting coach. I wasn't a CrossFit coach. I didn't know anything about CrossFit. So I had to open myself up to being able to understand, okay, what is Olympic weightlifting going to do for CrossFitters? What's CrossFitters going to do for Olympic weightlifting?
What about a guy that early arm pulls?
Oh, don't know who that is.
We've had that discussion many times.
And he's taught me that, and I use him. Does Rich Froning really early arm pull? No, he doesn't. He does not early arm pull. What he does is he early arm pulls to bring the bar into his hips. But when you watch this guy go from this position to that position, there's nobody faster. And I had my coach who's a doctor in exercise physiology and physical therapy, I had him break down Rich's lifts. I said, I want you to study this guy. I want you to tell me, am I crazy here? And he says, you'll never be able to change him. He's the most efficient lifter that I've ever seen.
I remember he sent me like this big long, because it was like this real long detailed email from his coach. It was pretty funny.
It is amazing because, and I want him, if I would have gotten him early, then, my kids early on then. So I had to change them, but you would never change somebody like that.
So do you just tell people, no, I don't?
No,
Coach B says I don't.
I'm just like, hey, this is what it is. This is what's worked so far.
Coach B says I don't.
It is what it is, and the results speak for themselves, right? And what do you say somebody that snatches 140 kilos with bad technique? Good job.
Right?
That's awesome. You never wear lifting shoes.
No.
That's just something since I've known you,
Yeah, I used to, honestly. I used to, and then we got into where and you're talking about fundamentals. After 2010, when I got second, I backed up and was like, all right, I've got to go through and I've got to fix. I knew I didn't move well, and so I would just 135 and just do a lot of reps and do reps when I was fatigued and do reps, in the middle of workouts. But I got to where I wasn't wearing lifting shoes. I was just wearing tennis shoes, and I just feel better wearing tennis shoes. Yeah,
my daughter lifted in a weightlifting contest a couple of weeks ago, and she snatched in weightlifting shoes, and she clean and jerked in Vans.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, okay, what the hell am I going to say? So, and I think also that if you stop and look at, Rogue and Nike and all these companies, they're coming out with a pretty doggone hard sole, shoe. And that's the only reason why I wanted my lifters to lift in weightlifting shoes, because they got more drive against the ground. But if you got a good shoe that's a hard sole shoe, then you're gonna have the same thing. Basically.
There you go. This is that video I was talking about. This is sectionals in 2010. Look at that. The overhead position's there, but no touching of any hips.
No.
Oh wow.
Yeah. No, I got it.
That's an old video.
I know, but I'd take a look at that video, and you know what I'd say? Guy's got some potential.
Yeah, overhead was there. It was just the.
Old. What do you look at for an athlete? You look at their mobility. You look at
that shoulder mobility.
And
he's got it.
Look at his hip mobility. I mean, you look at that, and he's in an overhead squat. If I can get somebody like that,
incredible.
You can teach him how to lift.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is it that if you were coaching a seminar or at a high school, what is it that you would look for in an athlete, or you see in an athlete that you're like, that's a potential weightlifter? They have greatness inside of them in this sport. kind of attributes would you be looking for?
Okay, first thing I look for is mobility, and we do test, for mobility. I mean, trying to, if you would have gone with me to my very first seminar that I did with Glassman in Golden, Colorado, we had 50 people in that seminar. No one could do an overhead squat with a PVC pipe. Nobody could do an overhead squat with a PVC pipe. So I'm going,
well, we're done here.
We have some serious issues.
It's going to be a long weekend.
But, one of my best tests that I've ever done and you could probably take, Tia might be able to do this. I know that Amy Lyons, you remember her, she's out at, she's a little short gymnast. Gymnasts can typically do this, but you take a PVC pipe, you put it on your back, and then you sit down on the ground, you spread your legs out into a split action. Now put your chest on the ground. Mm-hmm. That's a test that will give. Wow. That's a real, not very many people can do that, but if I got that person, I don't have to worry about the mobility stuff and for me, we don't do a lot of stretching, but we do what we call movement under tension, and we hold positions that are required. Like, I'm going to put you in an overhead squat. I'm going to bring you down to where you're perfect, and I'm going to hold you in that position. I'm going to stretch you out a millimeter at a time in that position of overhead squat. And I found that that's the best way to get people into the mobile aspect that they need to be the fastest.
What is that an indication of, putting your chest on the ground in a split?
Hip mobility.
That's what I'm wondering. What aspect of mobility is it? Because now I just want to go sit like that every day.
Can't do it.
Yeah. I'm going to do it every day now.
Well, here's the other one. If I had a PVC pipe in here, you'd take the PVC pipe, you'd hold it arms straight and your hands together like that and your feet together. Now squat all the way down, put your butt right between your ankles and maintain that upright posture.
Wow.
And that's, probably
I can get close.
80-90% of the population cannot do that. But you work, that's a great exercise under tension, right? Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden, where am I lacking in the mobility? The hips are great, but the shoulders suck, right? So now all of a sudden I'm moving my hands out a little bit wider, and I'm still not quite there, so I move them out a little bit wider. I'm there. Hips have got it. Shoulders need work. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to stretch you from that position so I can get your shoulders more mobile. And that's stretching under tension. We find that is easier to accommodate than just stretching, because stretch is not going to get it done.
So
what are some of the mindset and philosophy things you want to teach?
Well, I think the big thing is that if you're going to be a great weightlifter, you have to open yourself up to coaching. You got to trust somebody, and you got to have, as I worked with my athletes, I always had an open door policy. I was a hardcore coach. I mean, especially with my children, I was hardcore. But number one, they knew in the gym that dad was boss until he got in the house. And then mom was boss. And mama always backed me up in the gym. But late at night, when we went to bed, I got my ass chewed out. Are you being too hard on our children? So I think that the idea that you have somebody there that's going to hold you accountable for your actions, and I'm going to be fair to everybody I'm there. But as the athlete, you got to open yourself up and to give me everything you got.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you everything I have, then you give me everything.
Just want to reciprocate it.
That's all you're after. So just open yourself up to be thankful for the instruction, and just take it. And if there's something that you don't think is right, don't be afraid to challenge me on it. Because if I can't explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing, then I shouldn't be doing it anyway.
Wow. So. Weightlifting is so unique in that too. I mean, you were talking about public speaking earlier. Like, that's like a huge fear for people.
I hated it.
I mean, parallel, so we at a CrossFit competition, there's lots of people, there's sound, but a weightlifter walks out onto a platform in silence.
Yeah.
I've never been able to comprehend the warm-up aspect, how someone goes back there not knowing exactly when they're going to go reach 100% of their strength on a platform silently while 3 people stare at you and blink a light.
Yeah.
that's just whole nother level of pressure.
You have to train for that. I mean, and you do train for that. I mean, we would run mock meets at my high school for these kids because we had 50 kids go to a national championship one time for school age and junior national championships, and these were PE kids.
Wow.
You know, these were kids that, you know, they were Mexicans, they were Asians, they were white guys, they were black guys. They were all together, but they were a team, and the team was Team Southern California. And, you know, we had a philosophy of training. And they weren't football players, because if the football coach thought I was going to take one of his kids and make him a weightlifter, he would have hated that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, so you got to train for that. And there's nothing more fearful of going out and seeing these three guys in a coat and tie with this thing in their hand, and they're grading you. So you have to learn to watch the screen. Don't watch them. Watch the screen. And then it's just a matter of, are you prepared? Are you prepared physically? We know we are. Are you prepared mentally? That's the challenge.
I mean, so physiologically, you know, I did this test in college in our exercise phys department. They hooked you up to all these things, and there was a little golf strip. And they say, hit 10, we'll get your score. Okay, whatever. You hit 8. They go, give you $100 if you can hit 8 now. And it measures the amount of tension that actually occurs in your body under pressure. Right. So, and that's, I mean, you're weightlifting, it's still millimeters.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you coach athletes or condition them? I mean, you're saying you just through mock meets, is that the strategy for getting them prepared for that?
No, hell no. I mean, every athlete is entirely different. I mean, every one of us in this room, under stress is going to act a lot differently. And, I mean, you go home tonight, you're worried about this, and you can't sleep, and you're worried about it. And if I do the same thing, I go home at night and I think, okay, because of a movie that I watched some time ago, this guy was going to be put to death, and the lawyer says to him, aren't you worried? The guy says, is it going to help? And then if you think of it like that, how easy is that? What are you going to do? Is it going to help? So I'm going to walk out on that platform. Now I can have all this negative stuff going on in my brain housing group, and guess what? It's not going to help. It's going to hinder me. So the best thing to do is just let it go. But telling somebody to do that is
different.
Every athlete, every body, every mindset is different. That's what coaching is so great. You get to work with different people.
How inherent is handling pressure at the highest level?
I mean, how inherent?
Some people have it, some people don't.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, in the experience I've had with people I've met here, I've come to think that a portion of that is inherent inside the person, that it can't be trained. There's a huge amount of that can, but I think at a certain level, Rich is a perfect example. And Jim talks about it all the time, like under the lights, he's just different. Like, people don't come that way.
Look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. And he's so focused in on what he's doing, and that's the difference. Can he look at that picture right there and still snatch and clean and jerk? I'm going to look at that picture and I'm going to say, yeah, I'll kick its ass. And you're going to look at that picture and going, oh shit, I hope that picture doesn't come up and bite me in the ass. And if I have that kind of mindset, then I'm going to have that kind of performance. And it's just the way they're trained. Every athlete is entirely different. That's the beauty of coaching, because you've got to be able to take this athlete who's got every bit of ability that he has and more, maybe.
Yep.
I don't want to
have the mindset.
I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to. And they'll self-talk themselves out of a lift or out of a performance or whatever. You know what? If I had that answer, I'd be a gazillionaire. Because I wish I did. Because I can tell you, I have had athletes that absolutely have more potential, but they cause me to drink bourbon.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah. There you go. Jim will drink bourbon with you.
I'll do it.
This afternoon.
Yeah, amen.
This afternoon. That's awesome.
The eyes tell it all, though, don't they?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I study him because, of course, he's a Notre Dame fan, so I love him. I love him for that. But, I mean, you look at Rich's eyes, you look at anybody, the top competitors, you can, you got that shit going until you get out of breath and you're going,
yeah.
Right? But, no, I'm focused on what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And if he's on his team, he's focused on the other people on their team because he's going to make them who he's really been working with and knows well, he's going to see where there may be a little, and he's going to attack that because he knows how to deal with that.
Having the chance to be around for the last couple of years around, Mayhem and watch these guys compete, I don't think people really understand. I can tell. Because I'm around enough and I've learned their bodies enough now, I can see it in their eyes, and then it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
They're in that space, and it's on.
Yeah, I think the best thing that I could ever say about Rich and Mayhem and what he's built here is that, number one, it's a family, right? And I really believe in family. But, it's if I could move any place in the United States, I'd move right here. I think it's a great area. It's a great, 35, 40,000 people community. It's got everything you need. It's got the Fronings. I mean, it's got it's got a good politically, it's a good state. And it's just, it's just a beautiful place to be, and that's why I try to come here at least twice a year.
We love having you, brother.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you doing this. It's been fun.
Yeah, it is. I enjoy
We'll
it.
go lift some weights in the barn and let you coach a little bit. How about that?
Shit.
I'll bring some whiskey up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Coach. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming
I
out.
appreciate you guys having me. I really,
you.
We have
it's
like
been
4 more
fun.
hours. Like,
I know, right?
What
We have to do another one soon.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Episode 65, right?
65.
Yeah, RP, trifecta.
Yes, sir.
What else we got? We don't have anything. We got
Farrell?
China coming up for us. We got Iceland coming up for you guys. We have, you're talking about bringing Mayhem Mindset.
We'll open it back in May.
Okay.
We'll go another round in May.
New apparel. Oh, newsletter. People sign up for the
Yeah.
newsletter. That's coming out.
That's awesome.
Trey's been working on that. So check it.